Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to improve our vocabulary. Today we will have our quiz number 11. For those of you who have been watching these videos, vocabulary videos on a regular basis, you would know that at the end of every 5 days we have a quiz. And in those quizzes we cover the words that we learned in the previous 5 days. Today, being quiz number 11, means that we will cover the words that we learned from day number 51 through 55. And unlike the regular vocabulary videos, day 51 through 55, these quizzes go at a faster pace because we cover all the words that we learned in 5 days in just one day. So here we go. So I don't have a luxury of going into too much details. I don't have a luxury of going into writing the pronunciation of every single word and so forth like we do in the regular videos. We just keep on going at a decent pace. So let's begin. Day number 51 is what we're going to cover first. On day 51 we learned 4 or 5 words which all of those words meant basically the same thing. They all meant to praise someone, to say good things about somebody. The very first word we learned was Lord. Lord, which means to praise. To say good things about somebody. To say good things about somebody. Lord, which of course is a verb, and the adjective would be laudable. If something is laudable, something is praiseworthy, is deserving praise. Laudable means deserving praise, deserving approbation. Well, there is the next one, deserving approbation. That was the next word we learned. Approbation. Again, I'm not going to, as I said, I'm not going to write down the pronunciation, but in the actual videos you will see that I always make a point of putting the pronunciation up next to every word, just to make sure that we know exactly how to pronounce the word. Approbation is the word, which means something, which means to praise, which means praise, because it's a noun. It doesn't mean to praise. It means praise. It means commendation and approval. Or better yet, commendation. Commendation word comes from the word commend. And what does that mean? Well, they all mean the same thing. They all mean to praise. Let's learn the word commend next. Commend means to praise. To express approval. The next word we learned was extol. Extol is spelled with one L, and some people spell it with 2 L's. They are both considered correct spelling. Extol means to praise. Praise somebody lavishly. To praise somebody a great deal. To praise somebody a great deal. Extol. And finally, the last word we learned on day number 51, again was related, and the word was to eulogize. Again, it's a verb, which again means to praise, but eulogize has a nuance of praising somebody, not just saying, oh, what a good job you did, but eulogize means to praise somebody in his speech. To praise somebody in his speech, to deliver a speech praising somebody. To deliver a speech praising somebody. So that's the difference between the word extol or laud or to commend as opposed to eulogize, which means to praise somebody in the form of a speech. Let's move on to day number 52. On day number 52 we learned, the very first word we learned was obviate. What does it mean to obviate? Now I keep telling you that I'm not going to put the pronunciation, but sometimes I can't help. Obviate means to take some measures ahead of time by anticipating future events, and you take some steps that will make something in the future unnecessary. Do you understand? To obviate, to prevent something from happening. to take countermeasures. To take countermeasures. Do you understand? How can I give you an example? I cannot think of a nice example right now. Obviate. To take countermeasures which makes something that might happen in the future, some measures that you may have to take in the future, unnecessary. To obviate. Which, again, one more time, obviate means to prevent something from happening by anticipating or thinking ahead of time, by taking countermeasures. To make something unnecessary, to make something, to make something unnecessary by taking countermeasures. And that was the next word we learned, counter. I think countermeasures should be hyphenated. Countermeasures. Now what does counter mean? Let's talk about that. Counter, right here. What does counter mean? Counter, of course, it shows up as a prefix, which simply means contrary or opposite. Contrary or opposite. One talks about counteract. One talks about counteract, counterattack, counterbalance. One talks about countercheck. Somebody does somebody checks something, and your job is to countercheck it, double check it, make sure as a second layer of protection. Countercheck, counterclaim. So if somebody files a suit against you claiming something, you can file a counterclaim. And finally, the last one that we all know, counterwise. Well, so, not counterwise, rather, that's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say was counterclockwise. That's an L. Counterclockwise. So here's our clock here. We can go clockwise or we can go counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, opposite way. The next word we learned on day number 52, which had nothing to do with what we just talked about, was completely unrelated word. And that's what they are, as I explained to you, as I've explained to you in the past several times. These are just some words that I've collected over the years, the words that I wanted to learn myself, and this is just this forces me to actually sit down and learn them formally by doing these videos to reinforce the words that I may have learned and have forgotten or may have not learned properly. By doing these videos, it forces me to actually sit down and learn them properly. And therefore these words are actually not related to each other. They have no rhythm or rhyme. These are just some words that I have compiled to put together a list, and that's what it is. The next word that we want to learn is tome. What is a tome? A tome is a large, bulky, heavy book. Large, bulky, heavy book. Tome. For example, I'm looking at one right now here. I'm going to show you here. Here is a book, which is a very simple book, very light book, very thin book, as you can see. And this would not qualify as a tome. But this I'm holding in my hand here actually is a tome. It's a very big book, it's a very bulky book, it's a very heavy book, it's a tome. That's all it means. It doesn't have any special meaning other than that, that's all. It just means a big book, a big heavy book. Next what we learned was impetus. What is an impetus? It's a noun. An impetus is prodding. It's prodding. It's to cause someone to do something. And stimulus, if you like, an impulse. See, I'm writing as a to, even though it's a noun, it's okay, so it doesn't matter. It's an impulse. It's an stimulus. If you cause someone to do something, you're providing an impetus, a prodding. Prod is a word that we learned long time ago. Prod was the word which we learned long time ago. If you want to learn this thing proper, if you want to learn the word properly, is the word that we learned on day number 12. Just type in vocabulary words, day 12, and in that video you will see that we had learned the word prod, which means to poke, to cause someone to do something, to rouse someone into action. Prod, impetus. Prod, literal meaning of the word prod, let me explain to you what it means literally and what it means metaphorically. We already explained what it means metaphorically, which means it's a stimulus, it's to cause someone to do something. Prod literally means it's a stick that the people used to use back in the old days when they used to ride horse and buggy, and if they wanted the horse to go faster, they will poke the horse with a stick in his body, and that stick was called the prod. So to prod somebody is to make someone do something, or if they're doing something, to make them do it a little bit faster. Do you understand? If you go up to somebody and say, "What's taking so long? Come on, let's pick up some speed." Well, that's an impetus. That's the prod. That's prodding. Let's move on then. Day number 53. I missed one. Day 53. The very first word we learned on day number 53 was caustic. Caustic has a literal meaning and it has metaphorical meaning. Literal meaning of the word caustic is something that burns like acid, something that is corroding, something that is sharp. Literally, that's what it means, caustic. Sulfuric acid is very caustic, but that's the literal meaning. Metaphorically, it simply means if you make a caustic comment, it just means it's a very sharp, biting, very hurtful comment, very sarcastic comment. When you make a caustic comment, it cuts to the quick. We'll learn this word in a second. Caustic comment can cut to the quick, and we'll learn this in a second. Cut to the quick, what does it mean, that expression? Let's move on then. Let's go to the next word. On day number 53, the words that we learned on day number 53, they all had to do with saying nasty things. They all had to do with being nasty, saying hurtful things. The next word we learned was vitriol. Vitriol is in chemistry, it means sulfuric acid. That's what it means literally. So if something is vitriolic, that means it's caustic, it is sharp, it is biting, it is hurtful. Caustic comment, a vitriolic comment, a vitriolic speech, a speech full of vitriol. Do you understand? The next word we learned was animosity. Again, one more time, I will keep reminding you over the course of the video several times that if you're really interested in improving your vocabulary, this is not really the way to do it. This is a lazy man's how. To learn the words properly, you have to learn the words in their entirety in the proper video. This is just a quiz. This is not the learning process. This is just a quiz. This is just a quiz to see if you are able to come up with the meanings of these words as I put them on the blackboard even before I say them. The learning process takes place in the actual videos, which are day number 51 through 55. Animosity. What's an animosity? Animosity, again, is a noun. It's an extreme hatred. Extreme hatred. A bitter hostility. Bitter hostility. An open enmity. An open enmity is something that you would have towards your enemy. Enmity comes from the word enemy. And finally, the last word we learned on day number 53 was acrimony. Acrimony. What's an acrimony? Again, it's a display of hatred, it's a display of hostility. Especially in speech or in your behavior. So they all mean the same thing. So the words we learned on day number 53, they all mean, as I said in the very beginning, they all mean they all mean being nasty to somebody, to being mean to somebody, to say hurtful things, to say horrible things, to make sarcastic, bitter, caustic comments. So the very first word we learned today was caustic, and on day number 53 was caustic, which means burning like sulfuric acid, literally, and therefore you can make a caustic comment, you can make a vitriolic comment, you can display animosity towards somebody. And finally, you can have acrimony in your speech or in your manners. So just the way you behave, it displays acrimony, it displays some manner of hatred. The person can tell that you're not a friendly person. Number 54. Provincial. Again, notice it's provincial, not pro, but provincial, which again, it has literal meaning and it has metaphorical meaning. Literally means coming from provinces. Again, in the detailed meaning, which is something you will find in the videos on day number 54. It has an interesting etymology, but literally it just means coming from provinces. Coming from provinces, as in you're not from the city, you're not from this center of power. So if you're in Rome, you're not from the Rome, you're from the outer provinces that was ruled by the Roman Empire, or for that matter, any empire. And therefore, people who lived in the city, center of power in the city, tend to look down on people from provinces. And they thought that because they are not from the city, therefore they are not as sophisticated, they're not as suave, they're not as refined, they're not as urbane. And they would look down on them. They would think that they are narrow-minded, illiterate, not as refined. They were provincial because they came from provinces. So that's what it means. It means not sophisticated. It means not fashionable. Narrow-minded, as I said, having limited perspective, just not as refined as a person from the urban area, because I'm from the city. I mean, of course I'm sophisticated than you are. You're from the village. You're provincial because you're from the village. I'm from the city. I'm from an urban area. Therefore, I'm urbane. Do you understand? That's the next word we learned. The opposite of provincial would be urbane. Urbane means having refined manner, being sophisticated, showing proper etiquette, showing refined etiquette. You're cultured, you're elegant. You're not provincial? Of course not. The next word we learned was suave, which means basically the same thing. Suave is, notice the pronunciation, is suave. It has an ah sound, suave. Sophisticated, refined, cultured, urbane. Do you understand? Cosmopolitan. There is another word. There are many words in English language, but not just English language, any language, which carry the prejudices from the past. So in the past, as I said, people in the city or urban area used to look down on the peasants because people who lived in the outside the city, in the rural area, back in those days, used to be mostly illiterate peasants, and therefore people who lived in the city would look down on them. And all of these words actually show our prejudices. So if you live in the city, then of course you're cosmopolitan, you're urbane, you're sophisticated, you're suave, you're elegant. But if you come from the provinces, you're provincial. Do you understand? So the last word we learned was cosmopolitan, which again means someone who is who's been around the world a few times, somebody who is cultured, who's sophisticated, who's been around for a while, who knows what's going on in the world. You're cosmopolitan. You're not from the rural area. You're open-minded. Finally, the last word, for some strange and inexplicable reason that we learned on day number 54, was in fact this word, which has absolutely nothing to do with what we've been talking about so far. But there it is. Cut to the quick. What does quick mean? Quick here, of course, is being used as a noun. A quick, see if I can actually show you here, and the expression is cut to the quick. I'm going to show you here. When you're cutting your nails, and if you end up with a clipper, if you end up cutting too much of the nails, you get to the flesh under the nails, and that flesh under the nail is very sensitive. And if you cut to the quick, it really hurts. And that's the expression. That's what it means. Quick is the flesh. Quick is the flesh, sensitive flesh that you find under the fingernails. Let me put it down here. It's the sensitive flesh under the fingernails. And the expression is cut to the quick. If you cut to the quick with a nail clipper, if you cut to the quick, it really hurts. It's a very sensitive area, sensitive flesh, and it's hurtful. So if someone says something very nasty, very vitriolic, very caustic, you would say, boy, that comment really cut me to the quick. It really cut me to the quick, or really cut her to the quick. It was really hurtful to her. Do you understand? Let's move on. Very last day number 55. I'm going at too much of a leisurely pace. For some strange reason, on day number 55, we learned only 2 words. I don't know why. Catholic. Catholic, of course, if you spell it with a capital C, but that won't help, because I'm spelling everything with capital C. And Catholic is spelled with a small c. With a small c is what we're talking about right now, which means, which is an adjective. Catholic spelled with a small c simply means, the word Catholic means open-minded, broad-minded, someone who has universal taste, someone who is able to understand art, culture, music, literature, and the customs of other cultures. And if you're such a person, you would say, I'm Catholic. I have a Catholic outlook on life. Do you understand? So you can be a Catholic, or a Protestant Catholic for that matter, or for that matter, any other religion. Do you understand? Catholic simply means to be open-minded. The opposite of Catholic, a word which is also used in the context of religion, is parochial. Notice the pronunciation, even though it has CH in it, it's pronounced with a K in it. Parochial. See? Key. Parochial, not parochial, even though it has a CH in it, it's pronounced K. Parochial. Parochial means narrow-minded. It means somebody who is restricted in their outlook, someone who is provincial, someone who is not urbane, someone who is not sophisticated, someone who is conservative, someone who is prejudiced, someone who is conventional. The word conventional comes from the word convention, which is something that we learned on day number 46. Word convention has two meanings. Convention, one convention that we know is a gathering, a meeting, a powwow, hootenanny if you like. No, that's different. Don't say that to anybody. I think that means to have a party. That's not what I meant. And I don't know where it came from. Ignore that, okay? Convention is a gathering. And other meaning of the word convention is tradition. Tradition, way of doing things. Orthodox way of convention means orthodox, traditional, ordinary way of doing things. The way we do things on a normal basis. And from that word, we have from the word convention, we have conventional. So somebody who is parochial is very conventional, very traditional, very strict in their outlook, very narrow-minded. They do things. If you ask them why do we do this way, and their answer would be, because that's the way we've always done. And that's a very parochial answer. Do you understand? They don't want to try out something new. A parochial person is a very narrow-minded person, as opposed to a Catholic person. That was the end of our day number 55. I will see you in the next video. We'll keep on going. Idea is to learn few words, just few words every day, and as long as you're consistent, as long as you have the discipline and the habit of actually doing this every day, even if they are just a few words, 2 or 3 or 5 words every day, you will see over time a marked improvement in your vocabulary. Do you understand? I'm done with the sermon. Amen. Bye now.